is the Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast.
Hey there, welcome to another edition of the Celebrity Afterlife Report, the only show on the internet that gives you the up-to-the-minute gossip about all your favorite deceased celebrities. I'm your host, the Celebrity Medium, and I have yet another stack of stories to tell you about. So without any further ado, let's get right to it. If you are a regular listener to the report, and I certainly hope you are, you know the ongoing story about Charles Lindbergh, the first man to fly solo across the Atlantic, and his plans to build a whites-only community in the afterlife, and that former Nazi leader Adolf Hitler, who people thought was in on the plan with Lindbergh, has publicly announced he is a changed man who wants nothing to do with Lucky Lindy's plan. Hitler has been keeping a vigil 24/7 outside the entrance to the construction site of the segregated town and has been joined by a growing group of supporters. Last week, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. joined the protest, staying at Hitler's side around the clock. As I reported last week, friends of Coretta, Dr. King's wife, were whispering that she felt her husband was at the protest site as a way to avoid being with her. Since my last report, things have heated up on that front. Dr. King and Hitler were just wrapping up a candlelight vigil by singing "We Shall Overcome," the song King has been teaching the former Nazi, when Coretta showed up unexpectedly and confronted her husband. According to several sources and press reports, she started shouting at him, "Who is she? I know there's a woman. Who is she?" People at the protest backed away in surprise at her tirade. Even Hitler, I'm told, seemed shocked by Coretta's outburst. When she paused to catch her breath, Dr. King took her arm and led her away from the crowd, where the two spoke in heated whispers for several minutes before Coretta stormed off. King apologized for his wife's outburst, explaining that it was a, quote, personal matter, unquote, before calling an end to the rally for the night. As I have reported on previous episodes, prior to joining Hitler's protest, Dr. King was touring as a soul singer under the name Doc Martin, and Coretta suspected, accurately if sources are to be believed, that he was spending his nights on tour with female fans of his sexy singing. Even if her suspicions were justified, I received no word that his being at Hitler's side has anything to do with any current infidelity. There's obviously a lot of things happening with this story, and we will, of course, continue to stay on top of it. On last week's report, I told you that jazz musician Ornette Coleman, actor Christopher Lee, and professional wrestler Dusty Rhodes all arrived in the next world simultaneously. After Dusty made an improvised speech loosely based on his legendary one fans called the Hard Times promo for the crowd assembled to greet the three new arrivals, he was approached by his old friend, wrestler, and announcer Gorilla Monsoon. Gorilla invited Dusty to stop by the New Globe Theater, the venue owned and operated by Vincent McMahon, father of the Vince McMahon who is the current chairman of World Wrestling Entertainment. I can now report that after a few days of getting oriented to the afterlife, Dusty took Monsoon up on his invitation. I suppose that isn't much of a surprise, but what happened next was, moments after Dusty arrived at the New Globe, Christopher Lee was dropped off by a car from the next world equivalent of Uber. He introduced himself to Monsoon and offered his services to the Shakespearean company that performs at the New Globe. According to a source, Shakespeare heard the men talking and came out of the theater's office. Monsoon introduced Lee to the bard, and William was pleased to meet a fellow Brit with an acting background. Lee offered him his services as a director. Shakespeare explained that he directed all of the productions at the New Globe, but said he would be pleased to take Lee on as a dialogue coach. With only 2 exceptions, all of the actors in the company are former professional wrestlers who were used to speaking extemporaneously and, can use help learning written dialogue. My source tells me that Lee seemed to find the entire concept of the company amusing, and he excitedly accepted Shakespeare's offer, saying it would be a privilege to work with the playwright in any capacity. About 2 months ago, I reported that former Saturday Night Live cast member John Belushi had married O.J. Simpson's former wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and that the newlyweds had adopted a 10-year-old Korean boy who is now going by the name of Kim Belushi. I have now received word that the Next World Showbiz grapevine is buzzing with rumors that John is working on putting together a remake of the original Blues Brothers movie, starring himself and his new son as Jake and Elwood Blues. A source who saw an early version of the script says the movie appears to be a shot-for-shot remake of the 1980 original, although obviously Next World locations will have to substitute for Chicago. With the exception of Aretha Franklin, most of the musicians in the original movie are now residing in the Next World, and I'm told that they have signed on to appear in the new version. It's hard to imagine a young Korean boy playing Elwood Blues, the part made famous by Dan Aykroyd, but this would hardly be the first time a vanity project involving nepotism has reached the silver screen. Anybody remember After Earth, the bomb starring Will Smith and his son Jaden? Who knows? Maybe this odd remake of the Blues Brothers will turn out to be a cinematic classic. And maybe monkeys will fly out of my butt. Lastly, regular listeners to the report know that there is currently a feud brewing between former Apple CEO Steve Jobs and legendary maker of drip paintings Jackson Pollock. Rather than rehash the long backstory, if you aren't familiar with it, I recommend that you listen to the last few episodes of the report where it is explained in detail. To cut to the chase, Pollock is pissed about where Jobs has hung some huge murals he painted featuring very detailed and very explicit female nudes. If Jobs thought he had gotten the last laugh, though, he may have been mistaken. According to a source close to Pollock, the volatile artist has a trick up his sleeve that may turn the tables on Control's freak, Jobs. The source refused to give me all the details except to say that Pollock's plan is guaranteed to make Jobs furious and that it will be unveiled soon. This story sounds like it's heading for a train wreck of epic proportions, and I can't wait to hear the details so I can tell them to you. Okay, with that cliffhanger, we wrap up this edition of the Celebrity Afterlife Report. Please come back next week when we'll have more up-to-the-minute gossip about all your favorite deceased celebrities. And please spread the word that the report is available for free on iTunes. I'm the Celebrity Medium. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast. To ask a question about your favorite deceased celebrity, call 818-3-MY-DREAM. 818-3-MY-DREAM. 818-369-3732.